It's Taste of Country Nights with Evan Paul on demand, season 3, episode 4 with Connor Smith. I know Kenny Chesney is someone you look up to. Do you have any stories about meeting him?
There was about a year and a half ago, I was at breakfast, and this guy rolls up in this nice Jeep, beautiful girl, in the shotgun. Like, he gets out, and I just look, and I was like, that's Kenny Chesney, And so he sat down right behind me, and we were back to back. And I didn't say anything because I was like, you know what? When I meet him for the first time, it's going to be earned.
Amazing conversation we got to have with Connor Smith in this podcast. The kid started writing. He got a publishing deal when he was 16 and in high school. So he's got some stories. Thanks for giving us a listen here at Taste of Country Nights on demand. You can go on back and check out some of our other previous episodes. We've talked to Toby Keith, Jelly Roll, Dolly Parton as of late. You can always see them. Just search for Taste of Country Nights on demand wherever you get your favorite podcast. This is part of the Town Square Media Podcast Network. Evan Paul here with Connor Smith. Now, wait a minute before we start. There's two Connor Smiths. There's one with an O.
Yeah.
Do you guys have beef? I mean, he's an old guy, I think.
I mean, we don't have beef. They spell it wrong on like half of my green rooms and stuff, which is nice because it just kind of keeps humility always present.
Do you want to meet the other guy and be like, what's up, dude?
I'm all right. It never keeps me up at night, but if I need to, if I see him in the supermarket,
it's going
I'll
down.
Say hello.
Okay. What's your first country music memory, man?
Oh, man, I saw Kenny Chesney when I was 7. But my first memory would be going to the Opry. I grew up in Nashville, so I went to the Opry when I was 6. Saw how Ketchum plays. He sang a song called Sure Love. And I came home that night and rewrote the lyrics, and that was the first song I ever wrote. And thankfully he didn't sue me for plagiarism, but I was 6, so I don't think.
Yeah, who's going to sue a 6-year-old?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
That's a benefit of that.
But that's one of my first, memories.
So Kenny, you said was the other one?
Yeah, Nissan Stadium.
Wow.
It was after a baseball game. I just played a baseball game out at Civitan in Brentwood, and my mom came. She said, I got 2 tickets to Kenny Chesney, and we drove downtown and went to the shows. It was awesome.
Have you gotten to meet Kenny or work with him since?
Man, I was at the BMI Awards last year, and he walked past me. And
There's the story.
That's all I needed. And that is the end of the story.
Kenny Chesney walked past Connor. So did he say anything?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I did.
That's cool, though. That's legit.
I was at breakfast. It was about a year and a half ago. I was at breakfast, and this guy rolls up in this nice Jeep. Beautiful girl, in the shotgun. And he gets out, and I just look, and I was like, that's Kenny Chesney, And so he sat down right behind me, and we were back to back. And I didn't say anything because I was like, you know what? When I meet him for the first time, it's going to be earned.
Wow.
He's my guy. Kenny was my dude. I got a guitar when I was 4, and Big Star was the first song I ever played.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've really been engulfed in country your whole life, essentially.
Man, it's been everything for me, man. I don't know who I'd be without it. I just love storytelling, man. I love the Americanness that you can tell a story in 3.5 minutes with the guitar. And so I kind of gave my life to that pretty early on.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this. This is interesting because ball players, basketball and all, baseball, they'll get signed out of high school sometimes, and they'll go, I don't know that I've ever met anyone that got a publishing deal you were in high school or just graduated.
Yeah, I was 16. I was going into my junior year. How
does that work? Walk me through how a 16-year-old gets in touch with someone in Nashville. How does this happen?
It's crazy, man. I just grew up around songwriters. I kind of grew up around the community. I had, growing up in Nashville, your teacher's husband's a songwriter, your best friend's dad's a songwriter. My first girlfriend when I was in 7th grade's dad was Brett James, who's a massive country songwriter if you look him up. And so you're surrounded, man. It feels realistic to have that as a dream. And so had a lot of mentors in the industry. And then when I was 16, I posted a video on Instagram of me singing a Cop Car by Keith Urban. And one of the guys who wrote that song was Zach Crowell, who's a massive producer in country. And so he saw the video and reached out. Literally, it's a wild story. I was at dinner with my family, and I said out loud, if anyone I want to work with in Nashville, Zach Crowell. completely random, had no connection, had nothing, like not even a glimpse. 7 days later, I was in his studio. We started work, and he signed me to a publishing deal.
Wow.
Unbelievable. So I guess that's what happens when you grow up in Nashville.
What's that like though? Like walking through the hallways, like like you're cool. I got a publishing deal. Like what's that like?
They don't care, man. I love that. I went to school in Brentwood, Tennessee, since I was in the 6th grade, and it never faded. Like it wasn't like a big thing. I think being in Nashville, they're like, yeah, of course. I was always writing songs. I was always the guy that played baseball and I wrote songs. That was kind of just what I was known as. I'd play at a lot of school functions or whatever. And so it was never, they didn't like blink twice when I signed a publishing deal, which I loved. And if anything else, they just gave me a hard time for it, which is good.
What's the downside of going viral? You went viral right away with I Hate Alabama. Is there a downside to that?
Yeah, the label wants you to keep going viral. I don't even have TikTok on my phone. Like I don't even like, I'm here to write country songs, and there's a whole other side of this industry now, and I'm very thankful for kind of what it allows you and the way you can get your music out to people and connect with the fans, and so very grateful. But also, I found that it's not always healthy for me to stay on those apps, so that's the only downside to it.
Okay, in Creek Will Rise, I hear a little Dierks Bentley. Has anybody said anything like that?
Oh, straight up, dude. This is a true story. This was a couple weeks ago. I'm in my truck. I was with my fiance. We're driving down the road, and hear this drum come in. I'm like, dude, Creek Will Rise is on the radio. We're getting rowdy. So I cranked that thing up, and it was What Was I Thinking by Dierks Bentley. I was like, so close. So close. So we'll get him next time.
Wow, you mistook your own song.
Yeah, close. I was like, man, we're on the radio, babe. And then it was like, that's not me.
Yeah. And have you met Dierks and worked with him?
I don't think I have. We're in mutual circles, and so I've heard he's just one of the best dudes, and so would love to hang with him. I really did become inspired by a lot of his music as we were writing this record. I love he has a bluegrass feel to things, and I felt like this record that we made kind of landed in a little bit of a modern bluegrass taste, and so we've definitely gotten some Dierks comparisons, which is a big compliment.
Okay. Have you met any of your other heroes that you grew up looking up to?
Yeah, I've met a lot of them. Met Garth. I went on tour with Thomas Rhett, who was a massive. When I was 16, I went on a date with a girl to a Thomas Rhett show, and I remember it was at a Ascend Amphitheater, and we were up in the lawn, and like he played Die Happy Man. I was trying to slow dance with her, like be all sweet. The next day, she broke up with me. And then like 4 years later, I'm on tour with them. I'm like, I guess I got the last laugh there. You know what I mean? So
you had to tell that story on stage.
Oh, I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I told it a few times, but yeah, little moments like that. I've been lucky to have so many dreams come true, and really, man, growing up for me, the songwriters were kind of the idols, like these massive songwriters: Craig Wiseman, Neil Thrasher, Kelly Lovelace, Tom Douglas, Tim Collins. These guys that were writing every amazing country song. Those were the superstars to me, and so now I get to work and write with them and become collaborators and be in rooms and friends. It's that's the coolest part of it all.
Which country star would you want with you if you were going to get into a bar fight?
Toby Keith's the first thought. And then Brantley, Gilbert, obviously, were label mates.
Everybody picks Brantley.
Yeah, that's just a clear. And then Jelly Roll, I think, would be.
Oh.
But I also think, I do feel like Jelly Roll would kind of be the go-to. I'm a Nashville kid, and he's always just been so good to me because I'm from Nashville.
Okay.
We've got that hometown connection. And so literally just because I'm from his hometown, I think he would just kill someone for me.
I feel that.
He's got that kind of heart to him.
I feel like he would, yeah. Have you ever been punched in the face?
Yeah, by my brother, but never by an outside source.
Yeah, but what does it feel like?
It's
I've never been punched in the face.
Yeah, it's aggressive. So when I was
it's aggressive.
So I'll try to make the story short. When I was a freshman in high school, I was playing on the varsity team, so we had a big thing. Well, of course they abused all the freshmen, right? And so we had a big boxing match, and And so they're trying to get this other kid to go, and he's like, I'm not doing it. And I was like, bro, you got to do it. And he's like, all right, well, you do it. And I was like, all right, I'll step in. Either way, I go box this kid named Cole Mackey, way bigger, way stronger than me. Dude wrecks me, like freaking 2-punch, bloody nose, like almost broke it. It didn't feel great.
Dang, what a story though, man. What a story.
I'm glad it happened. I did earn some street credit there though.
And now he's going like, I punched Connor Smith in the face. Yeah.
Something like that.
Do you enjoy writing breakup songs or love songs more?
Oh man, I just love telling stories. A lot of the record leans towards love songs just because that's kind of been the phase of life I've been in. But there's also a song called Roulette on the Heart. That's a heartbreak song, which might be my favorite song on the record. And, I just love a good country hook, man. So anyway, we can write something to a hook. It always lands. And heartbreak songs, especially when you're going through it, are always the easiest to write.
Okay. Did getting engaged and being so in love change how you write any?
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you're always inspired by what you're living. You can be the best poet based on what you're kind of naturally feeling. So I think a lot of this album was shaped by that, and that relationship. So I'm sure it had a pretty big role into it.
Okay. And Dustin Lynch, I noticed, cut a couple of your songs. What's your guys' relationship?
Yeah, Dustin and I have been around each other. We got the same producer. And he's a really good dude. And I wrote a song this was before I really knew Dustin, and he cut it. It was my first kind of major label cut, which was really cool for me. So he's a really good dude. We played some shows together. He's been a supporter of mine.
All right, tell me about your best and your worst days in country music.
Oh man, a lot of both. One of my best days, one of the first shows I ever played, maybe the first show I ever played, was up in a small town called Oxford, Ohio, at a school in Miami of Ohio. And they've got this little country bar, a little bar that on Wednesday nights turns into a country bar called Brick Street. And first show we ever played, we went up there, and it was the most culture shocking, just kind of like, oh my gosh, because I'd never really played a show before. I didn't really have music out. And we went up there, and there was just like a craziness about it that kind of lit a fire in me of just like, man, let's get out on the road and let's go chase this down. So just all those first moments, the first time, you feel a crowd react, the first time I heard people sing I Hate Alabama back, or the first time that I heard myself on the radio and it wasn't Dierks Bentley. It was like all those first are always awesome. And then worst, I mean, oh man, we've had a couple songs diet radio, but I don't think that was the worst. There's been some days where you wake up with a headache and you're just like, man, I just want to be home right now. We did radio tour for months and months and months. There was one day I remember I was probably 3 months into radio tour. I'd flown in the day before and then had to fly out the next day. And I remember my pops was dropping me off at the airport, and I remember getting out at the airport just being like, man, what did I sign up for? So you definitely have some of those moments.
I bet you glad you didn't turn back.
Oh, for sure, man. We're having fun, and I got good people around me, and just been really blessed.
Cool, man. Well, congrats on the new album.
Thank you, man.
Love it, man. Sounds great, man. You're doing good things, man. Appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks for having me, bro. Always a good time.
Yes, sir. All right, we'll bring in Billy Dukes from behind the camera to kind of go through this podcast here. What you got, man?
I like Connor. He's a good kid.
Yes.
What was the one thing you wanted to know from him?
Man, I wanted to know the songwriting aspect of how he became a songwriter so young, because we're all songwriters when we're young. I mean, I had a couple notebooks,
Sure.
whatever, writing songs about sunflower seeds or whatever. But how do you get noticed and get a deal when you're that young and there isn't any nepotism per se involved in it? So it's shocking.
Well, he clearly had some connections. He grew up in the right neighborhood. Like you said, he was dating Brett James's daughter, I think is what he's. And Brett James is a huge songwriter. He's written a ton of hits for Carrie Underwood. I think he's written some Kenny Chesney hits. He's a future Hall of Fame type caliber songwriter.
Okay.
The other thing about Connor too is his mom was a music journalist, so there was some ties. Although she wasn't in the industry, she's sort of a part of the industry. I wonder if she preps him for interviews, or she said, "Oh, watch out for what kind of feedback does she get there?"
Next time we have him in, yeah, we should ask. Listen, does she say don't walk into a headline or something that you don't want to be? Yeah.
I didn't know that he was so like successful as a songwriter at a young age. That was news to me. Where'd you find that?
IMDb.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, under credits. Yeah, he had some songs picked up by like Rhett Akins.
Nice.
Yeah, a few picked up by other people. And these were when he was young. And I was like, it just boggles my mind that, but once you sit and talk to, as you guys heard in the interview with Connor, like he is you could tell he's like smart, very cerebral, And
he seems to have a real knowledge for like, to the best that he'd be able to, like songwriting history. Like who some of the legendary songwriters are.
Like he was in the woods. Yeah.
He's the guy who buys the album and spends time on the back jacket or in the album liner notes trying to figure out the songwriters, but also who's playing the guitar.
Definitely.
Like he knows of the studio musicians probably before he walks in there to record his album.
I mean, I got to think it's got to be intimidating to be someone like him at 16, 17 years old, sitting in with Rhett Akins, like writing with Rhett Akins. Like that's got to be crazy.
I'd be terrified.
Yeah. But then the other thing I thought was cool was how he went to dinner and was like back to back with Kenny and didn't say anything because it wasn't the right time.
He needs to earn.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because, I mean, I don't know. I haven't earned it, and I would go nuts if I saw Kenny in public,
He needs to be picked up on Kenny's tour or something.
Yeah, there needs to be a payback for that, a full circle story on that.
Interviewing artists like Connor, this is a little bit of a, I guess, self-reflective statement or opinion, but like it makes me feel a little bit old because it occurs to me like some of the artists he's talking about, like Thomas Rhett, he was in 7th grade at that show at the amphitheater in Nashville. Like I could have been at that show covering it for Taste of Country.
Yeah.
Like these writers like Dalton Dover is another one. All these young writers who are really younger than 25.
Yeah.
Grew up knowing Taste of Country as like the source for country music news. And that boggles my mind because I remember when we started Taste of Country.
He was like 4. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that is crazy because when you're 22 and you're doing all these things, it's got to be crazy. I don't understand how you get through that as a 22-year-old.
I wonder if that girl he talks about like knows.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And she knows she missed out.
Were you tempted to go in on the wedding and get some wedding details?
I was, but then like, honestly, I was like, I was just looking at it like, I don't know, anytime I was just looking at it from a headline perspective. I was like, I don't know. What's he going to say? Yeah, it's going to be a wedding. It's going to be cool. Boom. What am I going to? So, I mean, but I was going to ask something about like, I want to know a little bit more about his relationship and if he's picked up surfing because he's engaged to a professional surfer.
Really?
Yeah. She's a surfer. So I wanted to get in on that, but I just didn't.
And they live in Tennessee?
She lives in California.
Oh.
I mean, her thing is like, know how the girls do on Instagram. It's like CA greater than some NC greater than TN.
I don't know that.
It's like from California to North Carolina to Tennessee.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I'm 99% sure she's a professional surfer. That 1% probably stopped me from asking just from him being like, she doesn't surf. Yes, but
the other thing about this album that sort of really opened my eyes is like there's a bluegrass element to this album. And you hear it a little bit with Creek Will Rise, but there's some other songs where there's just heavy mandolin, heavy banjo, kind of in the way that Dierks Bentley did when he was coming along. And then the way Dierks has certainly expanded on that with albums since, what was I thinking? But like that says to me, like someone who's like big into bluegrass or is aware of bluegrass as a teenager, like that's a different type of breed. You know what I mean? Like the bluegrass guys in high school are kind of like their own.
Yeah.
Like that's, there's talent there, first of all.
Yeah.
Because they're not just listening to top 40 radio.
It's like old souls. Yeah.
You have to search for bluegrass.
Yeah.
I think.
And it's interesting because Billy, before the interview, was telling me that he has like a Dierks Bentley sound. And when I was just talking to him, there was some words that he said that sounded a little bit like talking to Dierks Bentley. And I was like, okay, like they really have that sound. And I know bluegrass is something that Dierks wants to explore more, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So maybe you know as well as I do, they could have already cut an album together.
Well, Dierks is always trying to sneak bluegrass in through the back door as best he can. He does a pretty good job of it.
Yeah. I think it's cool that Connor Smith's able to do it on his debut album. You know, he's like sticking to his guns and putting out, and the songs are working. The other thing I wanted to ask about but didn't was the viral song I Hate Alabama. He didn't write that. So
interesting. As
a songwriter, your first big breakout is something you didn't write. Is that weird? Did
you notice his hat he was wearing was Alabama colors?
No.
Yeah, it was crimson, red, and white. But he had a little Tennessee pin.
I saw that.
Yeah, so it was a little bit.
What's going on there?
Contrast. And the song I Hate Alabama, like you don't catch it the first few times you listen, but like the reason he hates Alabama isn't necessarily because he lost his girl.
Oh, I see.
In Alabama, that's the end of the chorus, but it's kind of a football song. I think.
Are you allowed to like Alabama and Tennessee?
No. That'd be like in the Cowboys and Redskins.
So he's
Commanders, I guess now.
Walking around with a Yankees and a Red Sox hat.
Yeah, you can't do that. There's no like none of those split household mailboxes are allowed with orange.
Interesting.
Like that's how you get your mailbox closed by the neighborhoods.
Interesting. Maybe his girl's an Alabama fan still, or I don't know.
There's a lot of Nashville talent right now, and I feel like maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, everybody was coming from Georgia, specifically North Georgia. You had, of course, Luke Bryant's, but Kip Moore's, Billy Currington's at the time, Jason Aldean. Like there was this whole, you could almost draw this line right up 75 to 24 to Nashville. But now we got guys like Nate Smith, Connor Smith. Who else is from Nashville that I'm not thinking of? There's a female artist that is Nashville raised. Well, of course, as I start thinking about this, I draw a blank. But there's 3 or 4 of them right now where like Nashville songwriters are sort of having their day. And I find it interesting, A, that it's happening now, but B, like that, why isn't that always the case?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone that we seem to talk to agrees that you need to take outside songs from Nashville. They have the best songwriters have to offer. I'm not sure.
You know one of the reasons why you have to take outside songs?
Is it something political?
Not so much political, I would say, but like Jake Owen and Hunter Hayes, when they both released their first album, they were really proud about how they did the whole thing themselves.
Yeah.
Like Hunter Hayes recorded every instrument himself.
Okay.
On the album, wrote all the songs. Jake Owen wrote all the songs on his first album. And it was a fine album he made. But like when you do that, you alienate the community a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think you see that still to this day with Jake Owen, who's a little bit of an outsider. Hunter Hayes certainly never really recovered from it. Like he wasn't embraced by the community. Like you give all those guys a chance to play on your album, you're giving them all a paycheck. All of a sudden they're rooting for you if the album was really good. Like it's not political, but it's like kind of being a good sport.
I see.
In the community.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So anytime anybody brags about, I wrote all the songs, I'm like,
Okay.
Maybe you shouldn't have done that, Haas.
And there's a couple of them that do. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
You need better advice.
Yeah, and those writers need to come from Nashville, not Georgia, right?
Right. Yeah, we're throwing in a few Nashville writers. Exactly. No doubt. One last thing I want to mention, because you mentioned earlier we were chatting. You said about the wedding you were thinking about the headlines. Congratulations on becoming a true taste of country writer.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is tremendous.
No need to waste time,
A peek behind the curtains here about how we do interviews. I've been a lot of what he asks is for the radio show, a lot of it's for the podcast, but sometimes we kind of put questions in there that are just for the website or things that can go. And if you're going to put a story on the website, you need a headline that's attractive. We don't want to be clickbait. But it's got to be attractive.
And there's some Evan wants to knows, and I've learned to save those for when we're done, when we're taking pictures. Evan wants to say, hey, I want to know that,
Well, most of the Evan wants to knows have to do with sneakers,
lawn care.
Or you had a long riff with Connor about coffee.
Yeah, that's the new thing. It's the coffee cups. Yeah. And so this year, Candid, I've got some coffee cups I'll be displaying. I've got actually just one other one other than my giant blue one. So look for those if you watch these videos. something exciting to live your life towards.
I just listened to an interview we did a year ago with Elle King, and it starts with
coffee cup, man.
Her talking about the size of your coffee cup.
Yeah, this coffee cup's famous. That's why I hate to introduce another one, but I will. But the one I'm introducing, just know I asked for it for Christmas. It's that good.
What is it?
I almost busted it out, but I didn't bust it out yet.
Time's not right. You need an art, like a superstar artist. Like when Luke Combs comes back in here.
Yeah, there you go.
You're going to bring out the A-list coffee cup.
When one of the Lukes comes out, we're in.
Do you choose your hat quality based on the artist as well?
No, not per se. More just based on availability in the closet, what matches and what doesn't have hair on it. From my cat.
Why is your cat wearing your hats?
Once it gets on the floor, that's it. Even if you vacuum, and the kids, they step on them. I don't know. My kids step on my hats. They break the thing. My other kid doesn't walk, but he's nothing wrong with him. He's just 6 months old.
These are first world problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for checking out Taste of Country Nights with Evan Paul on demand. Give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, all that stuff. It all helps us out. We appreciate you listening. And make sure to flip on back and check out some of our previous interviews with some of your favorite country music superstars back in season 1 and season 2. This is Taste of Country Nights on demand.